Hi there. We thank God for yet another powerful day. And I believe strongly you are up and kicking. Today we have English language, and our strand for today is writing, and our substrand is argumentative essay or persuasive essay or writing. Okay, but basically we'll be looking at the features of an argumentative essay or writing. But before we look at that, let's quickly look at the keywords regarding today's lesson. We have motion, opposes, proposes, house, argumentative, and stance. Okay, let's quickly go through the words, and this time I'd like to say the words after me as we normally do. Motion, opposes, proposes, house, argumentative, stance. All right, so now when we talk about an argumentative essay is a piece of writing that takes a stance on an issue. In other words, we can say that it's a piece of writing that takes one's opinion or point of view on an issue. So the stance over there means opinion or point of view. I believe you are clear with it. Alright, so in an argumentative essay, a writer, attempts to persuade the readers to understand and support his or her point of view about a particular topic, or and he or she does that by stating his or her reasons and providing evidence to back it up. I believe you are clear. Now let's quickly look at the meaning of each of these words. We have motion, we have house, we have proposes, and opposes or the opponent. These are some of the words that we need to understand regarding the lesson. So when we talk about the motion is a topic or subject to be debated on. The motion is a topic or subject to be debated on. It is always represented, or it is always presented in a positive form and in quotation marks. So for instance, this is an example of a motion. Doctors are more important in society than teachers, okay? And mostly in quotation marks, as you can see over here. So doctors are more important in society than teachers. All right, so let's quickly move on to our next one, that is the house. The house comprises the whole assembly. The house comprises the whole assembly. In other words, it consists of the whole assembly. It consists of the whole assembly. And examples are, we have the debaters, we have the audience, and the officials available. Now when we talk about the proposers, proposers are those speaking in support of the subject or in support of the motion. They are those speaking in support of the motion. So the opposite of proposers over here will be the opposers or the opponents. Okay, so the opposers are those who kick against the proposed motion, those who speak against the motion. I believe you are clear with it. All right, so now let's look at the features of an argumentative essay. Now when we talk about the features are the elements or the components that come together to make a whole. Okay, so when you are writing an argumentative essay, there are certain features that you must follow. Okay, certain features that you must follow. So you're going to look at them one after the other. And so on these notes, one of the features or the first feature that we'll be talking about is an introduction. So you must introduce the house. Okay, you must address the house. You must address the house. So the introduction is done first and foremost by addressing the house. So this is an example of you addressing the house. So we can say that Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, co-debaters, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, co-debaters, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen. We use chairman when the person chairing the occasion is a man, and we use madam Madam Chairperson, okay, Madam Chairperson, when the person is a woman. So when you are addressing the house, you start with what? Mr. Chairman or Madam Chairperson and end with ladies and gentlemen. As you can see over here, so always you start with Mr. Chairman or Madam Chairperson, followed by a panel of judges, co-debaters, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen. And now, second thing that we must do under introduction, we are still under introduction. Under introduction, so we must quote the motion or the subject to be debated on. Okay, you must quote the motion or the topic to be debated on. So I'll take it from addressing the house to that. Okay, so we can say that Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, co-debaters, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm coming to quote the house, okay, or the motion. Sorry, I'm coming to quote the motion to be debated on. So you can see that the motion before the house is doctors are more important in society than teachers. So after addressing, that is Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, co-debaters, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen, the motion before the house is, so in quotation marks, okay, doctors are more important in society than teachers. I hope you are clear with that. Thank you. Now, the third thing that you must also have in mind under the introduction aspect is you declaring your support, declaring your stand. Okay, either you are going for or against the motion. In other words, either you are proposing, okay, you are speaking for the motion, or you are kicking against it. In other words, you are opposing the motion. Okay, so I'll take an example. So an example, you can see that I would confidently like to speak for the motion. In other words, you are speaking for the motion. You get it? Or if you want to speak against it, you can also say that I would like to speak against the motion. Meaning you are kicking against, or you are proposing the topic to be debated on. I believe you are clear with it. Now, our next thing after the introduction, you addressing the house, you quoting the motion or the subject or the topic to be debated on, and the third one, you declaring your support or your stand either for the motion or against the motion. You now move on to the main, that is the body, the main thing, the message that you want your audience and then the officials to hear. That is the first thing that you must do. You can start by mentioning the possible major points of your opponent and refute it. Refute it means what? To disagree with what? The point or the possible points that you think your opponent may bring. I believe you're clear with it. So the first thing you must do, you start by mentioning, or you start by writing the major points of your opponent and kick against it, or basically you disagree with such points. Okay, and then secondly, you can provide your points and back them with examples and illustrations. Okay, so after kicking against your opponent's point, the possible point that he or she may bring out, you then bring out your points. You then bring out your points and back them with examples and illustrations, and mostly use short and precise or concise points, okay, or sentences that your audience or the officials will understand. So under the body, you first and foremost start by mentioning or writing the possible points of your opponent, and later on you bring out your points of view by giving examples and illustrations to back your points. Okay, all right. So now from there you then conclude. Okay, and the conclusion right here, you end your presentation in the final paragraph, or better still, just a brief one, okay, by asking the house to support or reject the motion before it. Okay, so after your introduction, your your central idea, the message that you are carrying across, to the points that you are giving to support the motion, okay, or the topic or the subject to be debated on. You then conclude. So on this note, we've come to the end of today's lesson, and I believe strongly we've learned a couple of things. So let's quickly wrap up on what we have learned. We talked about what an argumentative essay is, as well as some of the key words that we've mentioned earlier, their meanings, and said the motion. Said argumentative essay is an essay, is a piece of writing that takes a stance on an issue. And we said the motion is a topic or subject to be debated on, and then the house comprises the whole assembly. And then the proposers are those speaking in support of the motion, okay, and the opposers or the opponents are those speaking or kicking against the motion or the proposed motion topic. And then move on to the features. The features, we have the introduction, we have the body, and then the conclusion. And in the introduction, the first thing that you must do is you must address the house. Secondly, you quote the motion, and then the third one under introduction is you declare your support or your stand for or against the motion. And then move on to the body, where it comprises the message that you are spreading across for your audience to hear, in order to other support or to speak against or to kick against it. I believe you are clear with it. So the body, you can start by mentioning the possible major points of your opponent, and then from there you provide your points and back them with examples and illustrations. And later you move on to your conclusion. You conclude briefly. So on this note, we have come to the end of today's lesson, and in our next lesson we'll be looking at how to write an argumentative essay. Okay, an argumentative essay, how to write them, and I believe at the end of it all we'll be able to do that with ease. I wish you all the very best, and this note, bye bye.